against Washington to get elected, but they have now been co-opted by Washington. I'm not the kind of conservative that says preserve the status quo. I think the status quo in large measure is awful. Rather, let us change the premises upon which we're operating.
Paul Weyrich realized the Republican Party was not committed to his goal of a theocratic America. He wanted revolution, not accommodation. In 1981, Weyrich co-founded the Council for National Policy, a secretive network to spearhead the Christian nationalist movement. 40 years later, it has become one of the most influential political organizations in the country.
Paul Weyrich was grand architect of the movement. He talked about the way that his vision of religion needed to dominate every aspect of American culture and society. They realized that this was going to go against the majority of Americans, but they felt they had the right and the obligation to do that. Now, why did they feel entitled to dominate American society? Why should these people have dominion over the rest of us? A lot of the Council for National Policy's vision was rooted in a form of Calvinism, where the belief was that God favored certain people and that was reflected in their level of prosperity. So if you were a very rich person, that's because God had predestined you for salvation. And on the other hand, if you were a poor black single mother in Milwaukee, that was because God had predestined you to be that, and he did not favor you with the wealth and riches.
I don't think we have to apologize for God's blessings, but money is not the focus of our life.
Isn't it easy to say that if you're the only rich guy standing there?
It takes a lot of money to do what we do.
You said that you don't like to fly commercial because you don't want to get into a tube with a bunch of demons. Do you really believe that human beings are demons?
No, I do not. And don't you ever say I did.
You need to send in $35,000. You need to send in that $100,000 check. If you do not write that P.O. box and you do not call that toll-free number, you will never see sustainment in your life and your dream will die. So their whole worldview was to increase income disparity as a gesture of God's will.
This is Genesis 27:38. And Esau said unto his father, Hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. Yeah, like the bitch that he is, man. Okay, because we know from the story of Genesis that when the two twins came out, Jacob and Esau, the scripture says the prophecy was that the elder was going to serve the younger. All right, because we already read we already know in 2 Ezra 6 and 9, it tells you that the signs of the end of the world, Esau's world, is that Esau was going to be the end of the world and that Jacob was going to be the beginning of it that followeth. Okay, so that was going to be the signs of the end, basically. Okay, now I'm gonna keep reading here. It says, And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth and of the dew of heaven from above. So Esau's got that right now, man. All right, and how has he got it? Through bloodshed, through shedding of the blood of the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, man, who are really the children of Israel, man. Okay, and we're coming back to our true heritage, and we're calling upon the name of our power, which is Yahweh Ba'Hashem Yahweh Shai, man, the name of the Father and the name of the Son. Okay, it said, And by thy sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother. Yeah, you served us with that sword, man. You've been hanging us, you've been lynching us, you've been, basically your enmity, the enmity of the curse that goes back to Genesis 3 and 14 and 15 on down, is the enmity between thy seed and her seed, man, which is basically the enmity between Jacob and Esau. Okay, in fact, let me get it real quick. Okay, because it goes back to the beginning. Okay, the serpent in the garden, Genesis 3 and 14, and the Lord Yahweh power said unto the serpent, Because thou hast done this, thou art cursed above all cattle, and above every beast of the field. Upon thy belly shalt thou go, and the dust represents confusion, and that's talking about when they were in a confused state, when they were living up in the Caucasus Mountains, man. Okay? It says, and upon thy belly shall thou go. Yeah, cave beasts, man. That's what you really are. You cave dwellers, man. Because that's what the word Caucasian means. And the dust shall thou eat all the days of thy life. And I will put enmity between between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. And it shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. Okay, so that enmity, when you go into that word enmity, let's get it real quick. It's ayabha, okay? Ayabha. And it says enmity, hatred, okay? So they have a clear hatred. If you can't see that there's a true and clear distinct hatred between Jacob and Esau, then there's something wrong with you, man. All right, when you go to the root word, it says ayab. It says to be hostile to be an enemy to be hostile to. You try going, you so-called Negroes, Native Americans or Latinos, you try going out into the sticks, man, and see how they look at you, man. All right, you are going to be treated as an enemy. You are going to be treated as an enemy of the so-called white people, man. That's out there in the sticks. Okay, let's go back into the precepts in Genesis 27. Back into the blessing of Esau. It says, so yeah, he's been given the fatness of the earth, man, and they're living it up. Okay, the scripture tells you in Psalm 73 that they are not in trouble as other men. All right, because Esau is a man of the field. Okay, and he just gallivants around the world. It says, and by thy sword thou shalt thou live, and shall serve thy brother, and it shall come to pass when thou shalt have the dominion that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck. Right, and let's go to Psalms. Let's go to Psalms chapter 17. Let's see what King David said. Okay, it says 17. I'm gonna start from 1. A prayer of David. Okay. Hear the right, O Lord Yahweh, attend unto my cry, give ear unto my prayer that goeth forth out of feigned lips. Okay, so King David's pleading to the Most High. Let's jump down to the point, verse 13. Arise, O Lord Yahweh, disappoint him, cast him down, deliver my soul from the wicked, which is thy sword. Okay, so that goes back to the blessing that we just read in Genesis 27. By thy sword thou shalt live, and you served us with that sword, man. Okay, let's jump quickly to Amos 1 and 11. Amos 1 and 11 says, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, for 3 transgressions of Edom, and for 4 I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because he did pursue his brother with the sword, and did cast off all pity, and his anger did tear perpetually, and he kept his wrath forever. So you kept your wrath forever against us, man. That enmity, that hatred, that hostility, all right? You looking at us as an enemy, that's what you've done, and you served us with the sword, man.